Cool. So, hi, good evening, everyone. Today, I am very, very excited to have Tanmay Rathore, who is one of our past clients, join us for a fireside chat on LBS. So, he is currently studying at LBS and he'll be graduating uh, in 2027. Tanmay, super excited to have you today. It would be great if you could just tell our audience little about you, your background, anything. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Gunjan. Happy to be here. It's great to connect with you after it's been a while, but again, yeah, I think happy to be on the TRP platform again. A bit about me. I so originally I'm from India. I started my career in finance. Very typical. I did my CA. I did CFA. I worked with Deloitte for about 3 years. And it was in their audit and assurance practice back in Mumbai. Had a really good time there. Then moved to Flipkart after sort of graduating from my CA. In their Bangalore office, I was part of the business finance team for 4 years. I did projects across logistics and supply chain, sustainability, consumer goods, fashion, and then eventually kind of decided that I wanted to explore something different, explore a new industry, a new geography, and that's when I think the sort of motivation to do the MBA came from. And then, yeah, I applied for my MBA end of 24, uh, early 25. And then I just joined LBS for the MBA program 6 months ago. And then, yeah, I think it's been a crazy journey so far.
Yeah, and if I am right, you had applied to LBS in round two, right, Tanmay?
Yes, absolutely. I'd applied to
Round
LBS
two.
and
Yeah.
too.
All right. Okay, great. All right. So, awesome. So, Tanmay, we're gonna be covering approximately around 7 sections, and just for you as well as for our viewers to know, the sections would be around academics, culture, recruiting, application strategy, financial considerations, personal growth, and in the end, some honest reflections while you are there at campus, right? So, let's get started. So to begin with academic. So I would like to know how rigorous is the academic workload in year one at LBS?
It's certainly rigorous. Term one is the most intense term of any MBA, and it's the same with LBS because that's when you are just getting settled in. I think LBS puts a lot of focus on academics as well in term one. And the good thing, it is more foundational. So it basically sets up the course for the next five or so terms to come, right? So it covers very fundamental knowledge of finance, accounting, strategy, even more interpersonal stuff, right? On how to manage people, how do you assess yourself as a leader. So I think it's very foundational, but certainly I think the coursework does get to be somewhat intense, especially when you're just settled in the first couple of months. Having said that, I think it's quite manageable, especially if you have maybe knowledge of a couple of the major domains that they kind of cover. I think you can take some of those courseworks a bit easier in terms of work rather than focus on what you haven't studied. So I think while it is the most intense part of an MBA, I think overall academically it is still quite manageable.
Right. So, like, you come from a finance background with CA and, a pure finance background. So, is there any suggestions which you think, somebody who's gotten an admit offer and is wanting to, then do some pre-MBA work, would you suggest anything to do prior to joining the campus?
Definitely, I think the earlier you get started, the better it is. And LBS does set you up very well with the pre-course work.
Hmm.
While finance is one of the core subjects, you also have pre-course work for finance and data analytics and some of those things for someone who has never studied that before, right? To just get you up to speed with the rest of the class, so you can participate while in person in the class as well. So I think I would certainly recommend someone getting into it, probably do the coursework, and then if there's some avenues that you have no experience with, maybe just get started with a few basic videos or some light reading on what you can expect out of the course, and then it'll just help you plan sort of that first 2 or 3 months because it goes by very quick.
Yeah, and there is so much to absorb, and you want to leverage it completely. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, moving on. Which core subject surprised you the most? Like maybe you're expecting something, got something, or there was a complete surprise element to that.
That's an interesting one. I think there were certainly a couple of core courses that were out of the box, and that's what I appreciated. Because I've had prior experience with finance and accountancy, so those subjects were a bit more straightforward for me. But I think certainly they were a bit more practical than what I had expected or looked. Maybe it seemed to be a bit more theoretical back when I was studying it, but I like the fact that LBS was able to take a very practical approach, get real life examples, even get a couple of speakers who have actually worked with those domain areas in their fields and how they apply it. So that's one thing I really liked, was the practical focus, and a lot of the learning is quite experiential, right? There's a lot of hands on simulation work, there is a lot of projects that you have to independently do. So I think the fact that they were able to take something very generic and mundane and then turn it into something exciting and more connected to the real world was something that definitely surprised me.
Awesome. So we'll move to the next section, which is on culture. So how do you describe the LBS culture if you had to in, let's say, three words?
Okay. So definitely diverse. I think that's something that you'll hear from everyone. Very collaborative. I think everyone is super helpful. Everyone is supportive. You can reach out to anyone for help, and they'll be more than happy to do it. And the third one, I think fun. In general,
Oh,
I think, yeah. I mean, it's an MBA. It's intense. Everyone has come to sort of, take the next step up in their career. But at the same time, I think everyone is here to, just have a good time, right? In terms of in class, in terms of social events, in terms of extracurriculars. So, I think it's quite a fun bunch.
right. So that's an interesting mix. So it's diverse, collaborative, and fun to be around on campus. Great, great. So, how international does the class actually feel? I'm sure it must be very, very diverse, but just to hear it out again from you, like how
Oh
does it
no, certainly. Yeah, because it's something that you have when you experience for yourself, it's quite different. Like, you hear all these statistics, right?
Yes.
They say the class is 90%, 95% international, but then when you actually interact with your cohort for the first time, you truly think about, okay, wow, these people have such diverse experiences, right? I think we have about 60 odd countries represented in our cohort. There have been people who have worked across five, six, seven different countries, just lived their life away from home for so long, and that does uh, give them a sort of a very different way of looking and going about things. And that's something that when you speak to your fellow classmates, when you do projects with them, when you do assignments, that's something that truly shines within it. So very, very diverse in terms of countries, for sure.
Yeah, and like you did mention that the core term is very, very rigorous and it just goes by. But how are you guys placed on weekends? Do you have like networking, informal networking events on weekends, or how does your weekends look like?
Yeah, so I think the good thing about LBS is you sort of make your own experience.
Hmm.
The course is quite flexible. The socials that you want to get into are quite flexible, and the same applies to weekends as well, right? I think definitely everyone is doing something or the other on the weekends, right? We have a lot of case comms that happen. We have a lot of events that take place on the weekends. A lot of speakers tend to sort of come in on the weekends when they have a bit more free time, but a lot is going on even outside of the campus. There are a lot of treks that keep happening, a lot of trips, right? I think one thing, everyone is sort of here to explore, and then we plan up trips to just go nearby, like a town a couple of hours away, or maybe somewhere in Europe, right? For example, I think a couple of weekends, some people are going to be cycling all the way from London to Paris. So it's
Hmm.
certainly yeah, I think there's something for everyone else to do on the weekends, no matter what your interest is, no matter what your sort of goal and ambition is, you'll have something to do on the weekends. So to the point where your weekends feel like weekdays, and some of your weekdays might feel like weekends.
Wow, that must be a pleasant break from a corporate 9 to 5, right? Like, so
It's
good to
yeah.
hear that. Yeah. So, yeah, just to add a little more in terms of networking, right? So, how do you, is there like formal networking events that you're a part, like, that the school organizes, or is it more the student body doing it, or is it more the clubs? If you could give our viewers some flavor on how networking works and how do you consciously network?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of everything. So definitely, I think all the avenues are important when it comes to networking. Towards the beginning of the first term, I think the school emphasizes a more on formal networking events. So there are a lot more dinners or just networking drinks that the school organizes. We had a pre-MBA trip. Everyone went to Brighton, so that kind of helped, just get to know your cohort. And then there's this orientation week where there are a lot of these formal, let's say, dining events where you are just meeting your class. So a lot more emphasis on school organized events, and then it kind of takes over from there where you drive things more independently. So there are a lot of clubs that have very topical events. Right now, if you are in to PVC, you will have maybe a PVC mixer. You might have a mixer with someone more interested in consulting. You will have a chance to talk to the batch above. You'll have a chance to talk to some alumni. There are a lot of corporate events which are also sort of networking, where the school will invite down, let's say, BCG or Bain, and then they'll give an employee presentation. But then they'll also have opportunity post that, where you just go up to anyone working there, ask the kind of questions that you want, try to build that connection and get more clarity on what the work is. So I think it does become more independent in terms of what you want to do for yourself. But then there's also uh, complete self-driven opportunities, right, where you just set up coffee chats with whoever you want within the cohort or outside of the cohort. So certainly I think it's just like you mentioned, right, being very conscious about what networking is for you, because it can feel like a task. Certainly when you're doing a lot of networking, it might feel that you're not getting anything out of it. But just keep in mind on what you aim to get out of it. Is it, do you want to build connections? Do you want to get some more clarity on a role, or do you just want to explore the kind of opportunities out there? I think keep that in mind, and keep making conscious efforts on just reaching out to as many people as possible, because you certainly learn at least one new thing from every coffee chat or every event that you go to.
So what you said is really interesting. So it's always good to first make a goal and have a goal in mind before we go and be a part of these networking events, right? So that definitely helps. Now we'll move to the next section, which is on recruiting and career reality. What does like when does recruiting really start?
I think if you look at recruiting in broad terms, it starts from the day you get in. uh,
Okay.
right? Because you have to kind of think about, the first step is introspection, right? You think about what's your goal, and I'm sure the MBA essay and going through the entire process gives you some clarity. But it's a good opportunity for you to refine on what you really want to do before you kind of step in. When you
Mhm.
step in, it's uh, networking, like you mentioned, is a big element, and that's a big part of recruiting, right? And that starts right from maybe the first week or first couple of weeks, right? You have a lot of employee presentations, you have a lot of alumni catch-ups, you have inter cohort kind of networking events, right, where you're just trying to meet people, build connections, and then see how that can maybe transform into something a bit more tangible. So certainly it starts quite early, but formally I would say recruiting starts maybe around end of November, end of December, if you're doing consulting or investment banking or a couple more structured routes, because they start a bit early. And that's when the
Mhm.
applications are due, and then they start rolling out interview invites, and the interviews typically take place in Jan, Feb, and then by, let's say, March, you have a bit of an idea of what kind of offers you're getting for
Mhm.
internships, ideally. And then for unstructured, it's all over the place, right? Because
Yeah.
there's usually maybe one or two roles that may come through the campus portal. It might be through your network. It might be someone just reaching out over LinkedIn. So I think that's probably from anywhere between Jan to April or May for the internship, which is, let's say, June to September kind of period, right? And then for full time, uh, let's say if you're not going back to your internship, you would probably typically start doing recruiting as soon as you are done with your internship. Some people start evaluating in the middle of it, but usually when September of your second year or the first term of your second year is when the full-time recruiting sort of kicks in, and that's a bit more spread out. Consulting offers are rolled out, I think, somewhere between September to October, November, and then tech, VCP, those offers keep rolling in even by the time you graduate.
I would be moving to the next section, which is on application strategy. What do you think was the most strategic intervention in your application journey?
I think one thing that I think, Gunjan, you helped with a lot was, I think, framing the whole story in terms of why MBA, why LBS, and then linking it to my background. I think that was something that was, I think, extremely critical, because of course I had a story sort of framed in my head, but to refine it in the way that it very clearly ties into the overall narrative of, okay, this is what I've done so far, this is the next step, right? This is how an MBA will help me, this is why LBS specifically will help me, and then this is what my goal is at the end, right? To sort of leverage and bring together everything. So the fact that you kind of had those insights that you shared, okay, maybe we should position uh, your experience in this way, maybe highlight finance but not overly highlight it, because that has been most of my career, but also look at some of the projects that I've done outside of finance and see how we can bring those together as sort of a reason into why I want to transition away maybe from a finance career. And I think just sort of stitching that entire narrative together was probably I think the most crucial thing that kind of stood out in the applications.
Right. No, it was a lot of fun working with you. And one of the things which I would also like, people who are thinking of applying to LBS know is one of the most lengthy applications, right? Compared to other schools that you've applied to, you would know that LBS requires a lot more effort. So it's always good to be very consistent and to start early in the process. And that definitely helped us also to work very closely and, refine the pitch till both of us felt that, yeah, this is where we want things to go and the direction which we want the application to take. So yes, anybody who is thinking of LBS, please do start working on the process early. The application is very lengthy compared to a lot of other schools that you would be applying to. um, I would like to know that, how did you prepare for the LBS interview? Are there any tips that you would like to share?
Yeah, I think one thing that kind of surprised me a bit when I was preparing for it, and that's something I think if anyone is looking for an LBS MBA, you should know the interview is very conversational. It does not feel like a typical interview. It feels like maybe one of those coffee chats that you might actually end up with eventually when you get into an LBS, because your interviewer is an alum and they try to pair you up with someone who has had similar experiences. My alum was someone who worked in the e-commerce industry as well. He was actually maybe like a couple of kilometers from where I was working at the time.
Oh,
Uh, so I think that that helped in a way that I was able to put across my experiences in a way that I think kind of resonated with him, and I think he was super supportive throughout the process as well, and that's something that was new to me because it did not feel like a typical interview, right, where the person is just constantly assessing everything about you. It felt more like a conversation, and then
conversation.
it felt two-way as well, right, because he was helping me understand whether LBS is the right place for me with the goals and aspirations, which is certainly something different. So I would say just keep it very conversational would be my number one tip. Try to build that connection with the interviewer, and LBS will give you more than enough material because you will be paired with someone who is similar to you in one way or the other, right? So leverage that and try to build that rapport early on, because that helps smoothen the entire process out. And I would say just know your story very well. There will be a lot of questions because they are trying to understand, whether the person that you are in your essays is the same person that is there in the
Right.
interview, and they will try to look at it from all angles. But as long as you have your story, your reasons for doing an MBA, prepare all the generic MBA questions, because even if they don't get asked directly, it does help tie up into a different question that me asked, right? So why MBA, why LBS, why now, what are your goals, short term, long term, biggest achievements, weaknesses, reflections. I think prepare all of those questions. Don't prepare to the point where it feels robotic, but just so you are clear in your head and your motivations, and you let's say who you are as a person, so it's very much easier to then put it across in the interview.
Right. And I think the whole process of, writing star stories at the time of application would definitely have, helped you know what exactly are your professional challenges you want to talk about, what are the professional achievements you want to talk about. So just having the star model while working and also while delivering behavioral questions during interviews goes a long way in helping you structure your thoughts better and come across as somebody who is able to put across a point in fewer words and something which is very result oriented as well. So yeah, great to know that always writing plus recording your interview, like during practice, definitely helps out a lot. Moving to the next section, which is on financial considerations. How manageable is living in London financially? Like, I mean, the course fee and everything is sort of
Yeah.
out there, but just living expenses and the other expenses.
Yeah, I think it's certainly plannable and manageable. London is an expensive city, and that's not something new. I think most people would kind of know that, and that does uh, you kind of reflect on that throughout, let's say, your experiences. It does definitely add up, but having said that, I think it's quite manageable because there's a lot of clarity in terms of what to expect, right? The rent prices are something that's very standard and will not vary, right? Most people end up living in one of maybe 3 or 4 different areas, so it's quite standard in terms of, it will not fluctuate from one block to the other block. I think it's pretty standard, so you know what to expect already, and then it kind of helps you plan. Same thing, I think. It's sort of really upon the kind of experience that you're looking out for the MBA, because that does have a big factor in terms of what expenses you are incurring, right? How often are you sort of going to travel? How often you're going to trips? How often you might be going to all these events that keep happening, and there's a lot of them for sure. So I think it's certainly something that you kind of decide upon yourself, and then figure out, this is the experience that I want, and this is how I budget. There's a lot of information available when you get into LBS, right? There's a lot of resources that LBS will help you with. Okay, these are the typical prices for travel, for rent, for food, for living expenses, and all of those things. You can always reach out to the batch there before you. Everyone is quite helpful. There is sort of an internal Excel as well that kind of helps you plan out for some expenses. So I think certainly a bit expensive, but if you plan your MBA well, you should be able to ideally do it in sort of the budget that you set aside for it.
Right. And are there any unexpected costs, which somebody should budget for? I know the word itself gives it out,
Mhm.
unexpected, but did you face anything on these lines?
Yeah, there are. I think the biggest thing for me is all the events that keep happening,
Okay.
right? And in the way that there are a lot of trips that happen, right? There's a global experience, that's the LBS sponsored trip, and that's something that's on top of the course fee, right? But beyond that, there are a lot of treks that keep happening. If you're doing V or PC, you can get down to New York for a week and then understand. If you're doing something in consulting, there's a chance to go to Dubai. If you're doing something in luxury, you get to go to Paris. Through all the club events. But even in London, there are a lot of all these events that keep happening. There are mixers with other business schools. There are more club-oriented events. So a lot of events, and then you definitely would want to be a part of as many as possible, because
Yeah.
that's the whole MBA experience, right? So I would certainly say that keep a good amount of budget aside for it, because you don't want to miss out on things like that. And that's how you sort of make the most out of your MBA anyways. So
Mm-hmm.
unexpected in the way that I mean, you don't know exactly what you're in for because these keep changing, but they are going to be a big part of it, and it's not something as evident when you're just doing cost of living or course fees and
Yeah.
living. But I would certainly say plan for all the experiences, because they do add up.
Right. Okay, so that brings us to the second last section, which is on personal growth and transformation. One of my favorite sections. So, how have you changed in the last 6 months ever since you joined the program?
Oh, a lot. I think so many different ways, but I think just the biggest change that I've kind of seen myself is just because how diverse the cohort is, and there's so many opportunities available at LVS to do things. So I would say that I've started to keep much more of an open mind in terms of how I view things, how uh, I want to tailor my MBA. Right, I came in with certain expectations and mindset. Okay, this is how it's going to be. But being here for 6 months has completely shifted so much of that. I mean, I've been taking projects up in, let's say, the sports industry, which is not something that I would ever think about doing. I've been going out to a lot of social cultural events, I think, and that's something that I would definitely advise anyone who's coming in.
Mm.
You are maybe not exposed to such different variety of experiences, having uh, maybe been in the corporate journey for a bit. So I think if you're coming in for the MBA, I mean, of course LBS, but anywhere you kind of go, this is something to take a note of, is just try to be open, enjoy as many experiences as you can, and then try to make the most out of the network and the cohort you get, because that is, I think, the true strength of the MBA. So reach out to as many people as possible, understand their learnings, because everyone is coming in with a very rich career. Everyone has all these insane life experiences, and that's something that you can just understand from them, get to be a part of that, and take away a little piece of that. So definitely, I think try and be open to people and experiences.
Definitely. I think it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to get people from so many different cultures and, more importantly, so many different backgrounds, industries. It's definitely something that should not just be looked from an academic standpoint, and experience different clubs and the experiential learning programs. London Cap, for example, and just being in London, I think plays a huge part in the overall experience, right? Like, definitely helps you network better and meet people from different backgrounds. So, yeah, is there any one thing, a mindset shift, I would say, that the MBA brought in you or forced you to make?
I think sort of push myself is what I would say. I think it's sort of an extension of keeping an open mind, but ideally, I think the MBA is the perfect opportunity for you to push yourself in every single way, right? In terms of academics, to take up courses that maybe you would not have any prior experience in, right? Because that's the way that you build, right? I've been taking a lot of coding courses, let's say. It's not my background, but I don't think I would get that chance again. And that's something that is sort of the need of the hour as well. So just push yourself in terms of academics, in terms of social events, right? Try to go up to new events where you might not have sort of anything in common, right? But just go and have that experience, because that will teach you something very different. uh, Push yourself in terms of what you think you are capable of, because I think that's something you will realize during the MBA, that there's a lot more that you can do uh, than you think. uh, and yeah, I think just be out there, try to maximize this entire experience, because it's only, it feels like 2 years, it goes by very quick. It's only been 6 months. I have no idea where time has gone, to be honest. But it's been a sort of an exponential learning journey that I've had so far. But it's only sort of you only experience it if you actually actively try and make the most out of it, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, because time will pass very quickly.
So, yeah, I think one advice which if I had to sum up, is which you're trying to tell, is around pushing yourself and going out
Mhm.
of your comfort zone in all angles, right? Whether it's from somebody who was an introvert, even pushing and doing the networking, or taking up courses which you have no background in, like how you mentioned coding. So, yeah, pushing yourself out of the comfort zone to make the most of the program makes a lot of sense. So, yeah. Um, I hope everybody heard that loud and clear. Um, the last section, an interesting one, honest reflections. So, what's overrated and underrated about the MBA program? There's just so much. People are after the MBA program for multiple reasons. It's not worth it. There is no point doing an MBA and all of that. So, yeah, I wanted to hear it from somebody who was there in the campus experiencing it firsthand.
Yeah. Okay, this is definitely honest reflections. I think you have to think about these things a lot. uh, I think someone who has completed the MBA might have a different experience. I'm only 6 months in, so I can sort of speak to my own experiences and how the 6 months have been. But I think I'll start with what's overrated, probably. I think what's overrated is the fact that going in the mindset that MBA will sort of completely change your life or just make you a different person altogether. Uh, because while that's definitely possible, and I've seen that happen quite a bit, I think uh, it's not a passive effect, right? It's not something that will just happen as part of being in an MBA, right? Just because you're there in an MBA, go to classes, you go to events, will not completely change who you are, unless that's something that you actively work towards. So I think how transformative an MBA is may be
Mm.
overrated if you don't actively try and seek out that transformation within yourself. It might, and of course that's not everyone's goal, but if that is yours, I think try to actively do it, rather than just letting it happen and going with the flow and seeing how things kind of change. uh, but yeah, and what's underrated, I think, is I think the network and the people, because for me that's been the biggest uh, learning so far throughout my MBA journey is the learning that I'm getting from people around me, and the fact that there is this entire diverse cohort of people who have covered every industry under the sun at this point, right? But just speaking to them in class, outside of class, and the learning that you get is immense. But even maybe going outside the cohort, the fact that you have access to all these speakers coming in, right? Every week there are like 4 or 5 different speakers coming in. The fact that you have access to go and just sit and then hear their sort of honesty, and people are very honest in all these fireside chats or all these Q&A sessions. I think that's something that is a once in a lifetime in terms of, I don't know where you'll experience it ever again, right? We had the CEO of Coke coming in a couple of weeks ago. We had the president of Iceland coming in like a month ago, and we got a chance to just absorb the kind of insights that they were able to share, get a chance to ask some questions, which, I mean, when you get a chance to ask a world leader something, right? So
Yeah.
I think just the people that you meet and you get a chance to interact with throughout the cohort is the biggest, I think, value of an MBA. So just maximize it to the extent that's possible.
Oh, it's interesting that you mentioned that, Tanmay, because initially when people are exploring the idea of an MBA, they would often come and say that, yeah, we want like structured frameworks. And my question to them is this not something which an online MBA can also give you? So think deeper. Why do you want an MBA in the first place? And why do you want to take away, take a salary, a zero salary for 2 years and go spend additional in an MBA? And time and again, I feel that the biggest asset of an MBA is actually the network. So it's an asset which goes with you, and it's a lifetime asset. And if you're able to leverage it, like you mentioned, then that is the MBA experience. Say, yeah. So thank you for reiterating that to our audience today. Is there anything you wish you knew before joining?
A lot, I would say. If I could figure out a way to add 5 extra hours to my day, I would have done that. But I think having just speaking on that, it's how to sort of structure your time and the efforts that you put in through the first couple of months, because those are very foundational in terms of they lay the groundwork of how the rest of your MBA will be. So very actively figure out that this is what you want to do in the first 2 months. This is where you want to invest the limited time that you have, right? Whether it's academics, whether it's maybe career center recruiting, whether it's just networking, even in terms of socials, right? What are the clubs you want to be a part of? What are the expos you want to be in? So I think very actively try to figure that out. It's not something you have an answer to the moment you step in, like I mentioned, because you have a lot of new experiences that will make you rethink what you want to do. But the sooner you have that clarity and the sooner you actively work on it, and then make sure the first 3 months are what you need for them to be, to then set up the rest of the course, is something that's super important. So maybe start thinking about all these things before you come to the campus, because the good thing about an MBA and LBS specifically is there's a lot of information available. There's a lot of resources, a lot of people willing to go and share that information. So even before you step foot in the campus, I think just think about like I mentioned earlier, right? What do you want to get out of the experience, and then what will get you to achieve that. So think about how you want to plan and spend your limited time, at least in the first couple of months, because when you can't do much in terms of course selection, your courses are not tailored, right? They're fixed, so you have to think about that. But the rest of the time is something that's completely up to you. So how you choose to invest it, I would say, is something that's super important. And I wish I kind of knew the extent of how impactful that will be for the rest of the things, because you can always think about these things in hindsight and say that, okay, maybe I could have done this, maybe I could have done that. So that's something I would maybe just say, that be mindful of.
Yeah, so then in that case, I think talking to alums, as many alums and current students before you join the program, and people who are probably interested in the same industry as yours, and then understanding from them that what are the resources that helped them the most from a career point of view, from a personal transformation point of view, would be a great idea. I think that is where the whole business school research ties in really well. And hence the emphasis of the schools as well on why LBS or why Oxford or why a particular program, because they don't want that once somebody is in campus, they are lost given the just the plethora of resources
Yeah.
that are available. So thank you so much, Tanmay, for your time today. I think this was super insightful, and I hope that people who are interested in LBS have some good takeaways from this particular chat of ours and are able to plan better. And all the best to you for your recruitment season and for the time left for the program to complete. Thank you so much, Tanmay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
And this is